Hi, Nerida. This week, we got something really special. Interviewed two of Australia's biggest builders, Simon Gray from ProBuild and Michael. I can never pronounce his surname correctly. No matter how many times I practice, I still can't get it. And out of respect to him, can you please say his surname?
Agaru.
Agaru. Okay, Michael Agaru from Hickory. We're going to be asking them a lot of questions about what's happening to construction costs, innovations, what's happening to the market, and how they manage to cope with everything happening. But it's really exciting to be changing from the types of people who are interviewing to two builders, which is new and refreshing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I know when we were interviewing a lot of the developers, they were saying, you've got to talk to the builders. So it was such a thrill to finish off our last interview for this year with two of the biggest builders, and really looking forward to it.
And you might notice that I've changed rooms now just to shake it up as one last hurrah.
I need to change rooms too. I think I've had this background for the last 6 months in pretty much every interview I've done. So
no one's complained though. It looks good. Looks like you're in a display suite.
Yeah. I can't move the camera too much because it'll completely destroy that image. But anyway.
But on behalf of Nerida and I, thank you everyone for watching Lead the Way, and we hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed making it, and we look forward to seeing you in the future.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Simon and Michael, thank you very much for coming on to this. And Michael, before we start, I just want to tell you how I managed to get Simon Gray onto Lead the Way. It wasn't an easy task. So I called Simon and he said, "Who's this?" I said, "It's Zelman Ainsworth. We want to interview you on Lead the Way." He's like, "No," and hung up. And then I kept calling, and after a dozen times, he finally picked up and said, "What do you want?" I said, "Listen, I got a $20 wager that I can get you onto the show, and I'll split it with you if you come on." And $10 later, look who's sitting right here.
$10, mate. It's $10.
I'll be offered. I probably could have got away with $5.
I heard nothing gets in the way of him and $10. So well done.
Simon, thank you very much for taking the time. And when after that call, that I realized how lucky we are and privileged we are to have you on the show. Nerida and I have yet to pay a single person to come on, and we've had some pretty big people.
Simon, I'll start with you. I can't have a podcast without asking about COVID. So has the fallout from COVID in the construction industry been better or worse than you expected? And do you think that activity will now start to pick up?
Well, it's a big question. I think the overall is it's pretty much panned out as I would have expected. Obviously, the lockdown in Victoria has probably gone further than anyone would have anticipated. But, starting with the clients, I think the clients have been, on the whole, pretty mature and supported their contractors, and certainly ProBuild on our contracts pretty well. There's the occasional client who wants to take advantage and leverage, but I'd have to say we've been well supported there. In terms of Melbourne and the lockdown, it's clearly that had a significant impact on our business, with over half our workbook being in Melbourne. And clearly, whilst we were able to turn our costs off with staff and labour generally, our fixed costs hurt us. Somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million a week. We just sort of evaporate through that lockdown period. In terms of recovery, I think we haven't had a lot of success in recent times with new work. I think Michael's probably had a better result than I have, but certainly the pipeline looks like it's returning, and we'll see the first part of next year being, I think, pretty solid for us. The difficulty is that we've got projects completing now, and there's going to be a gap of anywhere between 3 to 6 to 9 months to fill that void from the COVID, where everybody just put their hands in their pockets and stopped in terms of making decisions and progressing new contracts.
Michael, have you had a similar experience?
Yeah, quite similar. I mean, look, I'm going to reserve my judgment on is it better or worse for a few months, because I still think there's a few factors that I'd like to see play out before I say is it better or worse, because I really think we're still in it. The initial lockdown and the initial news of the pandemic was, it was just panic stations. I thought we were going to war. So, and in the first few weeks we we lost $500 million worth of contracts that we were about to sign or were signed contracts that were commencing. So it was pretty heartbreaking, quite frankly. And, we work for a year and 2 years on some of these things before we contract them and commence them. So it's a dramatic impact on our business. But we went into the trenches and we went to war, and we regained quite a few contracts, and we're having some success. So what it's demonstrated to me is that as a business we can respond to these situations, but actually more broadly as an industry, I think the construction sector did really well. And there's been a lot of collaboration. Whilst we compete fiercely against ProBuild and Multiplex and Icon and all the rest of them, there's been a lot of collaboration between the builders, on how to stay open, how to work safely. So I think that's been a standout, actually. And even with the industry bodies and the unions, the unions particularly, they did a terrific job of keeping us open. So I know Simon was a part of that, and Luke Stambolis from ProBuild, and they've been, speaking with George Abraham from my office, our managing director. So,
what has 2020 done to construction costs, and has this made winning jobs more competitive or less competitive for groups like ProBuild?
I'm sure many of your audience will be that group of clients that would be sitting there thinking that construction costs have gone down 10%. Well, no subcontractors' labour or materials elements have gone down. Productivity is probably holding and might improve slightly as we go forward. Well, I think where it's hurting is on the margins, and I don't know if it's possible to tighten margins on builder sites, but I think the subbies are probably tightening a bit. So, I don't think you're going to see a radical change either way, personally. And what you might see is a risk profile where contractors and subcontractors are looking for more balanced contracts, because I think they're going to, they've been, in some cases, have been exposed badly through this more recent period.
And Michael, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I've got a slightly different view. I think costs have come back a bit, and I put that down to that. The subcontractors sort of shed a lot of the fat shed whatever fat they could shed. I agree with Simon that margins can't compress any further, because we've all been very tight on margins forever. But we have noticed costs come back, and that everybody's sort of dug a bit deeper in order to shed whatever fat they had throughout their business. I mean, we've had a number of years of continuous, pretty much boom. And when you boom for a long time, you do accumulate a bit of fat around the belly. So, we've cut that off. Instead of having 3 wines a night, we have 2. So,
yeah, there's no doubt everybody's tightened the belt for sure, and their operating costs. And I'd say in terms of competition, well, there's always competition in our market that will always deliver the price. And then I suppose you just got to watch out for the seagulls that are fighting over the hot chips, because there's some jobs out there and clients and projects and builders that are just fighting it out, and that's not going to end well for anybody.
Yeah.
Moving on to financing, and obviously there's lots of different financing schemes available. Michael, I might start with you. I mean, do you think they've changed in 2020, and do you think they will change in 2021?
The financing. Look, we're seeing a lot of the non-banks enter the market, so that's been a trend that's a consistent trend that pretty much is hopefully going to save us, I think, during the COVID environment. Thank God for that. Lucky that happened over the past few years, because there's quite a few of them around, and they are taking a different risk, different risks on projects to what the traditional banks would. And in this environment, the traditional banks are quite scared about doing much. So it's been great that the other non-banks are out there.
Just in terms of the funding, clearly builders are not bankers, but the ones that have got the biggest balance sheets, I think going forward, are going to, if they manage it well and innovate and position themselves, will be able to pick up a bigger share. But, that's not to say that's the best way. Builders becoming developers has never really been a great success, and ultimately you've got to keep your eye on the ball and keep on the knitting. But I think, having big balance sheets, being able to partner and align with clients is a way of the future. And I think you'll see those organisations that have got innovative people and thinking doing that.
Simon, how about office? Have either of you got a view on the office sector? Yeah. And obviously it's a bit challenged right now, but...
Yeah, well, clearly, the CBDs of Australia are pretty empty, certainly Melbourne and Sydney, and people seem to still be able to get their jobs done. So, albeit, I'm encouraging our business to get back into the office to support our projects. There's a number of businesses that maybe will review how much accommodation they actually need going forward, and probably going to mean less big towers maybe, or a different type of tower, and probably more demand maybe for some more suburban, smaller scale development in the commercial sort of space. That would be, certainly short to medium term. I think that'll be a change of focus.
Michael, you're back in the office. I mean, are you expecting to build more offices in the future?
Got a brand new office. He's just built a beautiful Taj Mahal down there in South Melbourne. Fantastic.
I got to say, actually, that, that's case in point, Simon. My experience of this beautiful new office that we've built is pretty extraordinary. Like, my staff are loving it. And what I see in the office environment, as I see in most other built environments, that quality is going to differentiate buildings and make some buildings successful over others, because there is a big difference between living and working in an office building that's brand new with all the bells and whistles to what was built 5 to 10 years ago. So there has to be a lot of retrofit and conversion, and new offices will win every time. I was saying to a prospective tenant this today, on my floor, my wages spend is roughly $6 million, right? And my rent is $600,000. Well, we're pumping 200% of the normal oxygen levels into our floor space, and I reckon just that measure is getting us 10% extra productivity out of our people. That alone pays the rent. Then in addition to that, you've got all these other beautiful facilities which makes our staff very much appreciative. There's a real wellness factor to the whole experience and the environment, so they're healthier, they're happier, they're more productive, they want to be here, they're more attracted to working for Hickory. So there's a real value in that. And I say to prospective tenants when they come through, I say, well, if you don't recognise that value, then you're the wrong tenant for us. If you want to talk about a 10% reduction in rent or a 10% increase in incentive, then go somewhere else where you can get a cheaper deal. Because we're not here selling a cheaper deal. We're here talking to you about a different experience for the users. And I think that's where the office environment's going to go. And I think there's a huge opportunity there. This whole working from home theme, quite frankly, I think that's horse shit. Like, nobody wants to work from home too often. That's for sure. If we provide better collaborative office environments that have this wellness factor to it, I think everyone's going to be very attracted to working out of a good office building.
I support Michael in that. I think there will be a part of the market that will take this and reshape what their requirement is and what the product they look for. So whatever gets built will be different to what we've built previously. And ultimately some of the market will go for the cost-cutting regime of pushing people to home and not replacing as much accommodation. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting, but certainly probably in the short term, you look at those towers and until they get COVID sorted, you can't get too many people up those buildings too much of the day. So it's not going to go back to normal. It's not going to go back to the way it was in any short term.
I think the biggest question I have from all that is that, Simon, did you get to tender for Michael's building?
No, look, I think he had a pretty good contractor organised himself, actually. They did a very good job. I'm waiting to get an invitation to go and have a beer and have a look around, actually.
We'll have to put the bits with our IP in it under wraps before you walk in, just so you can copy.
I'll come down with a camouflage on.
Wear a GoPro on your forehead.
I mean, on that, your advice to young people, obviously we are in recession. It has hit younger people more in terms of unemployment. I mean, what's your advice to young people who are starting out or early stages?
So it's really good. You know, I have a passion for the young people. We've got a great graduate program in our business, but I give them about 6 key messages. The first one is expect to work hard. The dollars will flow naturally if you work hard and you're successful. It's not a sexy industry, so you really got to want to be in it. It's not like, you know, the banking and stockbroking worlds and those industries where the younger people probably gravitate to. There are so many options available to people that do get into our industry, and a lot of young people don't actually know exactly what they want to do, but I think the building industry gives great diversity in terms of the directions and the challenges and the pathways that you can take. I think ultimately loyalty is really important, and the industry puts a lot of energy into training people, and the young people just want to run for the quick bucks and move a bit, and clearly we encourage and look for people that want to join our company and stick with your boss and with your mentors and learn, but also then repay some of that back into the industry. I think also I also encourage them to travel and to work and travel, and I think a CV and a degree out of Australia is a great ticket for a young person in our industry to work overseas, and you know, without a doubt, if an Australian overseas is really in demand as a property person in Europe or in the Middle East or somewhere there. So I encourage them to travel a bit and then come back and bring some of their learning with them. And I suppose the last part is, in reality, the technical bit is really the easy bit, and it's the people skills that ultimately determine how you get on and how you progress in our industry. And those that can do that well as grapple the technical stuff, then, you know, it's a great industry. It's been a fantastic industry for me, and I'm very excited by, you know, the fact that we've got a lot of young people coming through, and we've got to keep the industry buoyant now to keep them all occupied.
That's great advice. How about you, Michael? What's your advice to young people?
Oh, look, I mean, I couldn't agree more with Simon. And you know, firstly, I've got to credit Simon. In all his years in the industry, he's probably churned out more construction professionals than anybody else. So his school has been exceptional.
So now they're all my clients, Michael.
That's right. Yeah, so some of the best people in the industry have come through your handiwork, mate. So well done on that. And you obviously have a really great training program. So my advice would be get your degree and get into a grad program with groups like ProBuild and we run a really great program as well, grad program as well. And many of the companies, the top sort of 10, 20 companies do run exceptional grad programs. It's the important part of our business. They are our future, they are our lifeblood, but they're extremely productive as well. Like there's, some of these young kids are just 1 year out of school. They're highly intelligent, hardworking, and they're very productive. So, we value them highly. And like Simon said, it's an exceptional career. There's exceptional career opportunities for them, and they earn a lot of money very quickly. So I couldn't think of a better industry to be in.
Simon, just to finish off as the last question, what do you see as being the biggest opportunity going into 2021?
Buying a property in Noosa or Byron. Mate, it's gone ballistic up there, so couldn't go wrong.
You could build an office there at this stage, I think.
I reckon buy an apartment in the CBD.
What's the other one?
Yeah, kind of cyclical. Yeah.
Or in a Hickory or a ProBuild development. There you go.
There you go.
Michael, what do you say the biggest opportunity is going into next year?
Look, I think, for us, our construction technology and construction platform, that's a big opportunity for us. And we're having some pretty significant conversations about globalization at the moment with a few groups. So there's some really interesting stuff going on there. But also, just core business, Selman. I mean, we fight every day and we're competitive and we enjoy what we do every single day, just doing, being blue blood builders. And that's fun. And there's always a challenge. COVID brings new challenges. But if it wasn't COVID, it'll be a new competitor who's undercutting the market. It'll be some other financial disruption, banks exiting. It'll be something. I mean, Simon and I have been around long enough. We've seen so many different issues confront our industry. I feel like we're always on a battlefield somehow.
If I could ask one more final question, but how do you think property prices will react next year to what we've just been through, here in Melbourne at least?
I wish I knew the answer to that.
I think it's going to be pretty flat, and more likely it might soften a bit, and it's not going up.
Would you be purchasing in this market or selling?
I'm always a buyer.
Michael, would you be purchasing this market or selling?
Probably doing both, actually. So we're purchasing property and then selling product. Still hard to buy property in the CBD. The CBD is still quite buoyant from a large property point of view. So it's interesting. The view is that compressed interest rates, cheap interest rates are compressing yields, which really underpins property value. So I can't see it softening too much. I mean, 1.25% interest rates means that yields for office buildings can go down to 3%, and there's still a very positive carry. So, why would property values go down in this environment? I still don't get that.
I think you also got to look at where are these overseas buyers going to be at in the big end and at the retail end. And clearly the retail end stuffed until immigration's sorted and education. But the big end of town, in terms of buying the big sites, there's still some big overseas conglomerates still willing to pay top buck. And it'll only be if they look to exit that maybe there'll be some adjustment to the values in the sites. But, I gather the sites are still holding value pretty much around the town.
Here's the opportunity, though, on education and on education particularly. I mean, we compete generally against New York and UK, London, as one of the biggest education cities on earth. Melbourne does. What a great opportunity at the moment while they're going through the turmoil they're going through in COVID to get the students to prefer Melbourne over those cities. I mean, Australia needs to capitalise on, how we've dealt with the COVID pandemic and attract the world's best right now.
So, Simon, where are you up to in terms of the sale of your business?
So the ProBuild business is owned by a publicly listed construction company in South Africa called WBHO, and they operate in Australia with two businesses, a civil infrastructure business and the ProBuild business, which carries out building construction. So the business that's being sold is the ProBuild business, and at this point we've agreed all the terms with a Chinese party that will see us go through approval processes between now and Christmas and regulatory approvals such that we would hope to complete the transaction and the sale in December or January. So that will see us inside a major international contractor with a Chinese base, and we think that will be a fantastic platform for us to operate from going forward. It's going to be a new chapter for our company and for our employees, and I think that will be like a turbocharger on us. It'll bring a massive balance sheet strength. It will mean that we'll be able to invest in property, and ProBuild will be their platform for property investment. The technical knowledge and the experience that we'll get from being part of a major international group, I think will give us opportunity and in fact give us an edge in some of our bidding. the supply chain. I think clearly the supply chain into Asia will be a bonus for us to tap into, albeit I think we do that pretty well already, but I think that will only get better. And I think it's really important for people to know that the leadership and the management of the company are all very committed and locked into this sale and to the future with a new owner. The brand won't change, the name won't change. Probably bigger projects with a bigger appetite is what we would like to do when the market turns for us. And I have an old saying which says, there's always a jet ski and there's an ocean liner, and the ocean liner takes a week to turn around. Well, the jet ski you can turn around on a 20-cent piece, and in business you've got to be agile and you've got to be able to change quickly. And whilst we might be owned by a big company, we'll be still the jet ski. We're not going to turn into an ocean liner. So,
that's very exciting, and congratulations. You must. It's really
it's taken a year, and COVID's not made that easy, but we're nearly through the journey, and hopefully, that'll get formally announced, towards the end of the year.
Right, great news.
What does that news mean to you, Michael, and to your business?
Well, firstly, congratulations, mate. I hope ka-ching. I hope you earn a shitload of money out of it. So, what does it mean for us, Zelman? I don't know. So, the Chinese companies operate in every construction market around the world, pretty much, except for Australia, effectively as tier one contractors. So, it is new to Australia, and we'll see what it does. Look, it's the same management, it's the same business. The balance sheet will help ProBuild immensely, I think, and particularly in going for those big jobs against Multiplex. Multiplex have seemed to have dominated for too long on their own at bigger end of town, and it'd be good to see ProBuild knocking them off, or being that first choice equal to Multiplex. I just hope they stay out of my way. Otherwise, I'm going to have to give Simon a deadlock.
So you can't get the jet skis too close together.
No,
it's always fun, though. It's always fun. It's always going to be fun. The new chapters are always interesting. Change is great, and I enjoy the change.
Yeah. So yeah. But generally, I'm very, very excited about it. I think it's going to be a fantastic initiative for our people, for the shareholders, and then also for the industry having a bigger machine there. And the China sentiment, it's not good at the moment. It's in my view, it's actually quite racist. But at the end of the day, that'll all settle down. What do they say? That the governments come and go, and the Chinese will still remain. They'll still be there, and they'll get through it. So we're confident that all that noise in the broadest sense isn't going to impact anything for us in any significant way.
Yeah, I hope it does settle down, mate, for all our sake, because I just can't see how we would win out of that game in any way.
How do you win out of fighting with the Chinese? You don't. Yeah,
it's silly.
On behalf of Narada and I, we just want to thank both of you very much for coming on to Lead the Way. You're both true gentlemen. Whilst you're aggressive competitors, the respect you have for each other is very clear, and the professionalism, it's wonderful to see firsthand. But thank you very much for taking the time and sharing your insights and learning. And Michael, thank you for only swearing twice, because I know it wasn't easy for you, and you really held it together. And Simon, if you could just send me your bank details, those $10 will come in coins. Or I can mail you 10 $1 coins. I think you're the coins.
I'll take whichever way it comes.
I just want to say, it says on my builder's license that I'm allowed to swear every sentence, so I might actually lose it when I'm swearing twice.